That's right!
Welcome to The Know. I'm Ashley Jenkins.
I'm John Reisinger.
It looks like one of the biggest publishers in the video game industry lives to fight another day. Ubisoft has staved off the seemingly imminent takeover of their company, for now at least.
In a battle that's been brewing for months, Ubisoft showed up to their annual board meeting today prepared to face off with the French conglomerate Vivendi, who's been steadily angling to wrest control of the company away from its founders, the Guillemots?
Guillemots. They're French.
Okay.
Much like Vivendi and Ubisoft.
Yeah.
Fortunately for the Guillemots, leadership of the company did not change hands, and Ubisoft survived.
Yay.
For now. Although Vivendi did cause a little bit of trouble, which caused a whole bunch of shit talking via press releases, which makes a good day for us.
Fun. So for the moment, we won't be seeing any of Ubisoft's franchises like Assassin's Creed, Watch Dogs, The Division, Far Cry, Ghost Recon, Splinter Cell, or Rabbids going under new management.
I have a lot of franchises when you actually list them out. So for those of you who don't know about all the crazy business shenanigans, today's meeting was potentially extremely dangerous for Ubisoft's Guillemot family. For some time, Vivendi, an entertainment company that used to own Activision, has had its sights set on Ubisoft as a prospect to help them break back into video games. Ubisoft, however, is an independent family operation that does not want any kind of interference from Vivendi.
I like Ubisoft as a family operation, like Grandma helps with Assassin's Creed or something.
It's the biggest family-owned and operated business in video games.
That's kind of cool. Being independent is something that Ubisoft values a great deal, so they haven't taken too kindly to Vivendi rapidly buying up more shares of the company, enough to give them a controlling stake. That's just a fancy way of saying they own enough shares to give them a significant amount of power for things like voting who gets to be on the board or other big decisions about running the company.
It's not abnormal for someone to own a ton of shares, but there's a line where it starts to make people in the business world a little bit nervous, especially if you happen to take over a lot of companies without their consent, which Vivendi has a history of doing. You can understand why that would make sense.
Yeah, that's kind of shady now, yeah. They recently took over Gameloft, the Guillemot family's mobile business, in a similar fashion. At the moment, they own 23% of Ubisoft's shares, which gives them a lot of shoving power and makes Ubisoft particularly skittish that Vivendi plans on taking control.
Which brings us back to today's meeting. One of the items on the docket was to add 2 new board members. At 23% ownership, Vivendi would have been well within its rights to vote to replace people on the board, like, say, Guillemot. And with that much voting power, they probably could have made it happen.
Fortunately for Ubisoft and the Guillemots, the board meeting went off mostly without a hitch, and Ubisoft managed to survive. Vivendi's representation opted not to start a new vote to put its own CEO on Ubisoft's board, which they literally could have done at any point during the meeting.
So you're talking about pins and needles. So one French reporter wrote on Twitter that the meeting ended with a round of applause, actual applause, which I get the feeling doesn't happen in most board meetings.
It happens every meeting I leave.
It's true. Yeah. That's true. We're bored until you leave. Ubisoft was thrilled that a changing of the guard didn't take place, as you might imagine, with
It's more of an English reference, not a French reference.
Well, looking extremely relieved following the proceedings.
Although I guess there's French guards too. Ubisoft wrote after the meeting, "Today during our annual general meeting, Ubisoft shareholders expressed massive support for Ubisoft's strategy and management. In other words, thanks for not getting rid of us, everyone. That was a close one." Woo!
Woo! They went on to say, "We remain focused on the execution of our strategic roadmap, which has already proven successful and which we are confident will continue to deliver great results and value for all of Ubisoft's stakeholders."
It wasn't all roses, however. Despite not voting to replace board members, Vivendi still made its presence known by refusing to vote on a number of important resolutions, like one motion to provide raises for talent at the company, which caused them to fail since Vivendi holds so many of the votes.
Now, Ubisoft even called Vivendi out for the corporate dickbaggery in their press release, stating that some resolutions were rejected due to Vivendi's systematic obstruction impeding the proper functioning of the company. Oh, them's fighting in the business world. Them's fighting terms, right?
I really like your battle call right there. Vivendi was also on hand afterward with their own public statements, writing, "Vivendi is Ubisoft's largest shareholder. Vivendi considers that it would be good corporate governance for it to be represented on the company's board of directors, considering its level of equity interest, 22.8%.
They're basically like Thanos showing up after the credits of a Marvel movie, reminding you that, just so we're all still aware, the bad guy's out there. He's not gone. The real one.
Ubisoft may have survived today's battle, but this doesn't mean they're out of the woods just yet. Are we out of the woods? Sorry, I've been listening to a lot of Taylor Swift.
No.
There we go. I'm with the right person. Vivendi has a history of hostile takeovers, and their decision to decline a board seat means they'll probably attempt to do just that.
The reason a hostile takeover is considered, well, hostile is because it's done without the approval of the company's board. If the board says, no, you can't have our company, as many companies want to do, you just go around them by telling the shareholders that you'll pay them more than their shares are worth, and then you buy the shares. The shareholders may decline, but the reason they own the shares in the first place is so they can make money, so they probably won't. If you're going to give them more than their shares or what they say, all right, cool.
Gotta get
and
that
then
bread.
You own a company.
Yeah. Polygon is reporting this week that Vivendi is absolutely plotting to make that kind of move at some point in the future, but they're going to need to muster up a little bit of help first. In preparation for it, Ubisoft has been doing what it can in the last month to buy back more of its shares from various parties.
Now, as for how that concerns you, the gamer, we've already listed the huge amounts of franchises that Ubisoft has at their disposal. Plus, they are one of the industry's leading publishers.
Like them or hate them, they do.
And a lot of people are on the hate train at the moment on account of, like Watch Dogs and all that. But Ubisoft is trying to turn it around. They've taken Far Cry potentially off the 2017 game roadmap to let that rest. They took Assassin's Creed off to let it rest. They're trying to maybe unannualize some of their approach and do right by gamers. Hopefully.
Well, they do take risks and actively develop new IPs all the time. In the last few years alone, they've created The Division, Watch Dogs, and For Honor. Even if you don't like those games, titles like The Division and Watch Dogs in particular have proved to be massive successes in terms of sales, which spurs other developers and publishers to take more risk and create new properties as well.
It's that whole idea of the rising tide lifting all ships. Ubisoft changing hands to someone who may not value their view of development could totally interfere with how they do business in a way that would have ripples throughout the industry.
Ubisoft's current CEO, Yves Guillemot, has pretty much said as much. In a recent interview, he declared that a takeover threatens the construction and pillars of Ubisoft. Things like taking chances on new IPs and holding off on previously regular franchises like Assassin's Creed and Far Cry to make sure they have more polish the next time around.
So the battle was won in the short term, but the war for Ubisoft and Vivendi is far from over. For the moment, they can breathe easily and keep making games and just try and keep any more shares out of Vivendi's hands. But of course, Vivendi can just go around getting more and more from the shareholders themselves.
What do you guys think of Ubisoft surviving another round against Vivendi? Do you think that Vivendi's going to end up being a bad guy in his future Assassin's Creed game? We'll find out. Let us know in the comments.
And for future updates on video game business news, because that's really exciting,
Business.
although it actually does affect us all, like this video and subscribe to The Know. I like business.
Business.
It makes me feel like a grown-up.
Business.
Are we out of the woods? Are we out of the woods? Come on, Taylor Swift.
Are we in the clear yet? Are we in the clear?
You know who's a huge fan of Taylor Swift? Bernie.
I know.